Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Board Doc subscriber-led webinar. Today, we'll be talking about a better way of policy management for districts in California. We are featuring South Pasadena Unified School District and Torrance Unified School District today on the webinar. Just a few announcements for everyone. The webinar will last approximately 45 minutes. We ask all those that are online to mute your lines. Please send any questions that you might have to the Q&A box, and we will address them at the end or during if we do have a moment. Sessions will be recorded and shared, and a link to the recording and slides will be emailed after the webinar. My name is Tom Duncan. I will be moderating today, and I am from Board Docs. And I have the pleasure of being welcomed by our panelists. We have Sylvia Carroll, the Executive Secretary at South Pasadena Unified School District. Sylvia, it's great to have you.
Hi there, it's great to be here.
Wonderful. And we also have Shelley Morris, Superintendent's Executive Secretary at Torrance Unified School District. Shelley, good to have you again.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Awesome. And also Angela De Los Santos, our Policy Services Manager here at Board Docs. Angela, always a pleasure.
Hi, everybody.
Awesome. Great. Well, wonderful. We'll go ahead and get started. We're going to talk first with Sylvia about South Pasadena Unified School District. And Sylvia is going to give us just a quick overview. So Sylvia, tell us a little bit about the district there.
So South Pasadena Unified was established in 1886. We have approximately 4,800 students in 5 schools, which are 3 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. We are part of the top 5 school districts in the state just about every single year. Our girls soccer went CIF Southern Section Division 5 champions. Our academic decathlon was 3rd in the state of California. We have dual language immersion, Mandarin and Spanish at 2 of our elementary schools, and 2 of our 3 elementary schools just recently were recognized as California Distinguished Schools. Let's see, we have a robotics and broadcast journalism programs through our middle school, 17 AP classes at our high school. This year we had 3 National Merit semifinalists and 19 commended scholars. And I've been a part of South Pasadena Unified for 20 years.
Oh, that's great. Great highlights. Wonderful district there that you represent, Sylvia. Shelley, I know that you've been on webinars with us before, but we'd love to hear a little more about Torrance Unified School District.
Well, in the facts, a lot of them are there. A large district with 17 elementary schools. We have 2 preschools not included in that count, which feed into our 8 middle schools, 4 high schools, 1 continuation high school, and 3 adult school sites. So there's always something, whether it's athletics, academics, performing arts. We've been lately having all of our grand openings and rededications of several of our schools. Well, all of our schools are being modernized. I think we're down to the last 6 elementary schools. We just did a dedication last week of a middle school, fully modernized, and opening of a brand new gymnasium. All of our middle schools are in the process of getting new gymnasiums. 3 of our high schools are getting brand new auditoriums. Torrance High School was the first high school here and has an auditorium, an original auditorium that was recently modernized and added air conditioning, new sound and lights. And all of our elementary schools are getting brand new science labs. So there's always something. We just a few weeks ago opened our Torrance Unified School District Aquatic Center. So now all of our 4 high schools have their own boys and girls locker rooms and a place to practice and have all of their aquatic events and meets, and so that's fantastic for our district. And let me see, well, I'm a product of Torrance Unified School District, elementary school through high school, and have been working in the district, oh gosh, let's see, my son was 9 months old when I started working for the district. He's now 25, so a long time, and been in the superintendent's office. I think this is my 3rd, going on 4th year, and was with the elementary director before that, and at a middle school and adult school before that, and taught for the adult school for several years before going to work full time. So yeah, my parents both worked for the district. My sister teaches in the district. My 2 kids have graduated from the same elementary and high school that I did, so I'm planted here pretty much.
I'd say so. Cool, great highlights, but even cooler, just the legacy that your family has there within the district. So cool to hear. Thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wonderful. Well, I think a great opportunity now to talk about each of your different journeys to Board Docs. So, Sylvia, we'll start with you in South Pasadena Unified School District. Maybe you can start with what prompted the need to look at a change and it was twofold. It was both board portal and policy management. So what was going on in the district that prompted this change?
So I have a fairly new superintendent. He's joining us for his 4th year now, and he had worked with Board Docs in his previous district. South Pasadena Unified was a legacy district for a board policy management and agenda planning program that I won't necessarily name here, back in October of 2008. So when my superintendent came and he spent his first years working with that system, and he thought, no, this isn't really working for us, so he wanted to introduce Board Docs. And our board and our executives, well, there's only me as executive secretary, but our other secretaries were very excited about it, very excited about the agenda process, but none of it affected them as much as the board policies, which were the cabinet and myself. And now that they've been on for almost a year, they just are very happy, very content, and will never look back.
That's great. Now, Sylvia, when you were the change was brought to you, you were using another system, right? The system from California there, and
Yes.
things were okay, but change can be hard, right? So were you as excited as everyone else, or was this a little more, hey, let's kind of wait and see? You weren't too sure about making the change at first.
I have to be honest, I wasn't really excited about it. I'd gone through the California process that we had been using, had gone through an update and an upgrade just a few years ago. And I thought, oh, Lord, here we go again. But it just is what it is. And I said, okay, we have to do this. So we jumped in September of 2007. And so that's how we started. And the process of changing over to Board Docs for the policy management was challenging, but it wasn't because of Board Docs. It was because the system with which we had been through all these past years did not decide to assist me in transitioning from their system to Board Docs. Right.
Yeah, so we love to hear these stories where people, aren't 100% sure, and then have that what people kind of coin the Board Docs experience. So, and then we'll talk to Angela here in a little bit about that, and you work directly with her as well. So, well, that's great. Well, we're so glad to hear everything moved accordingly. So let's talk about the policy tool a bit. What are some of those differences that you saw? I know one of the first things here is just quicker having to format policies and email them to CSBA. That's the way you used to do it. So maybe you can talk about what you used to do and what your process is now.
Sure. So back in the day, we had the CSBA manual maintenance, which was the uploading and the housing of our policies, as well as the Gamut Online, which is where they would send us the recommended policy changes. So back in the day, I would have to go through the process of having the board policies approved and then email them to CSBA. At that point, I would have to wait up to 30 days for CSBA to update our webpage. And in the last 3 or 4 years, longer than that, 6 years, I had to actually print the email that I sent that showed the policies that I had actually sent to them, because I could go back and those policies that I had proof had been emailed had not been uploaded. In addition to that, now with the policy tool through Board Docs, as soon as the board approves those policies, I can turn around, flip the switch, and have them live and active on the website. I don't have to wait for CSBA to upload and make those changes.
So those immediate changes. And right now I'm just showing everyone the screen. Just on the public-facing piece of this, we have 4 different books here, and you can have as many books as you want. And underneath each book are separate categories. So it's very easy to find that information. So today, you're able to still get those updates, those policy updates from CSBA, and that's their main job, is to provide policy updates, and they do a great job of that. And then take us through that. You're simply copying, pasting those, and putting those into board docs at that point, correct?
That's correct. And one other thing that I didn't mention is, I mean, as you can see, our board policies and administrative regs are set up in the 1000s, 2000s, 3000s, but that's just because that's the way we chose to set it. That's based on the way we're accustomed to organizing our policies. Board docs didn't mandate us that you have to put it in a certain way. If your district is used to using a different format and setup, there's a lot of flexibility in that.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. And for all those who are seeing this public side, Angela is going to take us through the back end here in just a little bit. So, but we do want to show what both the public, the board would be able to see. And the one thing we hear is the folks that use the full suite of board docs, including the policy tool, which comes with all of our solutions, by the way, is the board members, the staff feel like better governance occurs. You have information much faster. The searchability is right there. You're not switching between an agenda tool and then a policy tool, like with the old solution you were using in California, where you kind of had to go back and forth. Everything's searchable and available in this one location. Would you say that's accurate, Sylvia?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm typing in here youth services, and I'm just typing within this policy area, and it brings up every time the word youth, the two words youth services were brought up. So I can simply click on that, be able to find what I'm looking for. I could either print this or I can share this. And when I'm finished, I simply click the X button and I'm back to this screen where I have my books and my different sections under each book. Also, I could search just policies, but you can see on this back end, I can search meetings, policies, library of information, minutes, even attachments. So if I wanted to search here child nutrition, I could easily search across all of these areas. And you can see here, there's a policy item and another policy item around food service and cafeteria. So if I click on that, it'll give me information. It might even bring up an attachment. And then I simply click navigate there, and it will take me directly to that policy. And look how fast that was. So tell us a little bit about searching. Is that easier in the board docs world?
I really enjoy the fact that I can put in a keyword. And by the way, our district is on board docs, and we're on the Pro, not the Pro Plus yet, but we're on the Pro version. And I like the fact that I can put in a keyword. It'll search my policies, my administrative regs, my board bylaws. It'll search my agenda items. Because sometimes, especially when you're in transition and you've got changing administrators, it's hard to remember where something went. Was it board approved? How did we get to this place? One of the other things I was going to mention is the archiving that is possible through your policy tool, because I can archive a board policy, but it doesn't disappear off the face of the earth. If I want to go back and see what board policy 1325 was the last time it was revised, or when it was retired, what did it say? I have the ability to go back and look through that, and that is huge.
Yeah, and I'm just pushing over to the back end right now. I don't want to take any of Angela's thunder here, but you are able to keep items both in draft, active, and retired, right? So anything that's retired, plus just the archive itself as well. So awesome. That's great. Now, I know that obviously policy tool has been huge. You did mention also on your last bullet here that there was also a welcome to the change in agenda. We won't talk too much about that, but tell us a little bit about the board management tool that you're using as well with board docs.
So for me, I think the agenda management tool has been even more helpful on a global stage because it involves so many more people. Not a lot of people put their hands on the policy side. I do, and it really makes a big difference in my life. But for the agenda tool, I know that the secretaries and the administrators have found it to be really helpful. The ability to create an approval tree, and then everyone is emailed when an item is in their approval tree, and the ability to reject items and have someone make a change and then send it back, and then knowing in the status bar where it's sitting in that approval tree. That's been really, really helpful. Being able to copy things over from one meeting to another, the ease with which I can duplicate meetings to create my entire 1819 board meeting dates with a click of a button as soon as I got them approved by the board. That was really, really helpful.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Well, thanks for sharing. I did show some of the folks, just as the back end. This is where Sylvia and Shelley both work when they're creating the agenda, or the policies, working on policies, or even building out board goals, or even their minutes. This is their location. And Sylvia was referencing the ability to do workflow. And the one thing we hear from so many folks that use Board Docs Pro is, the efficiency that comes with that, and the ability for that board secretary no longer to be what we like to call the one intake valve. Everything's sent to them, and they're supposed to build the agenda. Now, as Sylvia mentioned, other departments, other staffers can actually log in, create. But the great thing is that the superintendent, the board secretaries, they all have the view and control the entire process of workflow. And we see a lot of folks use workflow for policies too. So every piece of the board management repertoire of tools can be used one within another. So it's amazing. Great. Well, Shelley, thanks for, Sylvia, thank you for taking us through this journey. And I know we're going to move over to Torrance Unified School District as well. So Shelley, you had a different experience, although you've been at Torrance Unified for several years. You were working in a different department. So when you came over, change was just underway. So tell us a little bit about why that change was occurring and how you played a part in it.
Okay, well, yeah, as you said, I was working for the Director of Elementary Education when I started here at the district, and actually was in that position when the then Executive Secretary to the Superintendent decided to go online with our agenda. Prior to that, she had been making tons of Xerox copies and binders and everything. So we got in on, I guess, the ground floor as far as Torrance using online agenda. As far as I can tell, our policies were just stored. The executive assistant at that time to the superintendent would update policies, email them over to our public information officer. She would download them on our website every time they were updated. And so I don't think we ever sent into CSBA to have them upload and all of that process. So I started as an item submitter to the online agenda and actually was a substitute for the executive assistant to the superintendent. So I went to trainings with her on the update. At the time, our network didn't support the updated CSBA version, so we had an extended use of the original program. And right before our extension came up, the executive assistant to the superintendent retired, and that's when I became the executive assistant to the superintendent. And so that was in my lap to either. She then said, oh, well, you kind of have a choice to go with this updated program, which at that time I needed a refresher because it had been a while since we went through the training. Or, some of the executive assistants in our little distribution list, our local ones, have talked about a new program, Board Docs. And I was thinking, okay, what in the world is that? I've never heard of it before. So I contacted some of the other executive assistants in the area, found one that was actually going through the training with Board Docs, and they invited me to sit in. So I went. Found another local district that was using the updated CSBA version. So I went and talked with him also. And the first one was the Board Docs, and I just was almost in awe of how easy it was. Some things that at the time CSBA didn't offer. A lot of it was drop and drag, which was so much simpler than having to go down, reorganize everything. And the possibility of storing our policies in that too, in one place. So talking with Redondo, as far as agenda stuff, they had to, once they got it entered, do some additional moving around and organizing before it was presentable. And I thought, okay, well, that kind of defeats the purpose. And they were considering switching, which made me think, I don't want to switch twice. So I got to make a final decision and do it once. So I got the okay from our superintendent, presented to our cabinet, presented to our board, and we decided to move over to board docs. So that's how we ended up there. Now we had, I guess I had a little bit easier time moving all our agenda things than unfortunately Sylvia did, because we actually had board docs move our past agendas and everything from CSBA into board docs, but I moved the policies over myself, and it took some time, but it was very easy to do, just time consuming a little bit, but and it's made a big difference with everybody here.
Yeah, and to that point, so whether it's agenda or policy, to Sylvia's point, that CSBA does not offer, the other vendor there does not offer the ability to move it over, because we do, anyone that is moving from another solution, another database, as long as it's in database form, we'll move it at no charge, the agenda information. And I know Angela will talk a little bit about it, but we have some really easy ways to move policy now too, through Word documents and so forth. But if it's just in PDF, which is the only situation that both you and Sylvia had, it would have to be a manual process that either board docs would provide as a professional service, or you would do on your own. Now Sylvia, I think it might be a record, but you moved all of your policy in about a month. Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit more than a month, but it was just one of those situations where nothing else got done. But one of the things that I have to say about the process, I had never in all my years, 17 years in the superintendent's office and 3 years in the business office, I had never spent that much time with the policies. So having my eyes go through them from 0000 to 94 whatever was really good, because I think there are things that a lot of people hadn't put their eyes on. I was able to bring it up to cabinet members, and they're like, no, we really need to change that. And it also gave me more familiarity with our board policies.
Oh,
so there
great.
was a silver lining in the end.
Sure, absolutely, with the hard work, right? So. Oh, that's wonderful. Now Shelley, you took it more of kind of a summer project, right? And over time, you were also able to move everything over.
Yep, that's right. I'm not sure exactly the time of the year, but probably more like a summer project. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Now you mentioned a couple things in the transition to board docs, Shelley. The in-person training, the 24/7 support. Maybe you can talk about that. That helps with your transition to board docs.
Okay, I believe we had a couple days training, a certain block of time for our board members and cabinet members, a certain block of time for the other agenda submitters, and then a longer amount of time over the 2 days for myself and the two people that are, are subs for me if I can't be present. But it was, I don't want to say easy because there was a lot to learn, but it was pretty straightforward and not a lot of, we had our questions, but not difficult at all to understand. The person that came out, I think it was Martha, she was great. It was just easy for everybody. I mean, the cabinet members, board members, other agenda submitters all had nothing but good things to say about it. So, and then, of course, once we actually get into it hands-on, you come across little questions. And if I wasn't able to answer for other people, either they would call or I would call tech support. And for the first couple of weeks, I kept saying, okay, I know you're familiar with me. This is not good because I'm calling all the time. But it was just my questions, not that anything was wrong with the program, just my questions in either something I had forgotten. And everyone was so nice and always answered. I was never put on hold or leaving a voicemail. I can't recall. So that's great because you're in the middle of something, you kind of need an answer right away, and always got that. So it was very helpful to have that tech support and not be afraid to use it.
That's great. And I know Angela plays a big part in all of our policy transitions as well. And I know the latest one she did was with Sylvia, Pasadena Unified. So we appreciate Angela and her providing that Board Docs experience to our subscribers. Wonderful. Let's take a look at, I know that, talking about the journey of the policy and agenda tool, I'll go ahead and show folks your site now. Very similar. Again, we've got the policy tool here. You also have four different books, and then numbering order with that as well. So, and as far as one of the things I want to point out is we have a rich text editor at Board Docs that allows those that are creating, managing, and publishing, whether it's policies or agendas, allows them to put in information such as tables, logos, or just documentation as you see here. So we make it a very easy experience for the board members or the public or staff while they're reviewing information to not to have to click on attachments. No, you can obviously put an attachment in. But if you put as much information here in this rich text editor, it's easier to see, less clicks, and it's right here in front of you. Maybe you can just talk to the folks, the attendees that are listening in. How has this been helpful as far as having the policies right here in these books and searchable as well?
Well, for me personally, it's been really great because in the elementary office and also in the superintendent's office, I would get calls often saying, I'm trying to find a policy on cell phone use, or I'm trying to find a policy on, some other subject. And so I would be the one looking it up and making, scanning copies, sending them off, or attaching to emails and this and that. And so once I got the last policy entered and checked it all over and everything was good, I sent an email out to all employees in the district with, now all of our policies are accessible through Board Docs, with step-by-step how to log in and how to get to that page and what to do to find the different things. And I just kept getting emails back. Thank you so much. This is so helpful. Sorry, I won't be talking to you as often anymore, but I can find them myself, and just had nothing but positive feedback on the process of locating, searching, being able to search and locate policies and information that they were looking for.
Yeah, that's a big differentiator, having everything in one location. We had a question come up, and I know we said we'd hold some things to the end, but I think just the timing of it makes sense. Somebody asked, he said, well, we use Gamut today. Does this mean that we would no longer use Gamut? How would we get our policy content or update? Sylvia or Shelley, maybe you can just walk through that process one more time on how you get your updates since you no longer use Gamut.
Well, we do use Gamut to receive the updates. We don't use
receive them, right?
Yes, we don't use CSBA to store them or update them, but we use Gamut. So I get, the notification that, hey, like just now, the March 2017, is it March? Yeah. Policies are available for update, or 2018, sorry, a year behind. So I just email somebody there at CSBA, ask for them in Word format with and without notes. They send it to me, then I start the process of distributing them to our administrators, getting the information back. So we receive our updates from Gamut, but once I receive them, then it's all on me to get it distributed, get the updates, get them ready for board approval, and then once they're approved, I just basically copy and paste the new version in where the old policy was. So that's our process.
Wonderful. And Sylvia, is that about the same, or does that differ at all?
That's the same. I think the person who was asking the question was more concerned about getting their existing policies that are housed with manual maintenance into Board Docs. And the way that I did it is that I went into to Gamut, went to our site. So like I said, ours are organized into thousands categories. So I went into the 2000s category, I selected all, and then I converted those into a Word document or a rich text document. I can't quite recall which one it was. But what that did is it took every single AR and BP and converted them into one big Word document. Then I saved those Word documents as board policies series 1000 or 2000 or 3000. So at the end, I actually had all of my items in 7 or 8 different Word documents, and then I individually pulled each policy or AR and put it into Board Docs.
Sure. Awesome. That's great. Wonderful. Well, thanks for answering that. Fantastic. And I know also, as we just finish up, Shelley, with Torrance USC, you also have had a favorable experience on the agenda and the minutes side with Board Docs, also using Board Docs Pro, correct?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Great. Well, we're at the point now where I think it makes sense to hand things over to Angela. Angela is going to take us through some of the top policy features. So she's actually going to show everyone the back end, and this is, again, where Sylvia and Shelley are living to do the agendas, the minutes, the policy. And we're going to specifically just focus on the policy piece today. So, Angela, I'll go ahead and give you controls. As I'm giving you controls, anything that you want to add to what you've heard so far?
No, I mean, these ladies are amazing, first of all. The one thing that I would say is I know that this session is called A Better Way for Policy Management. I think that they've both made it very clear that Board Docs doesn't do any consulting other than the behavior of policy. So my team is an expert in how policy behaves, the workflow. You know, one of the first things I always do with a group that's wanting to use their policy feature in Board Docs is sit down and talk about, like, how do you get your updates? And then what do you do with them? Trying to make sure that Board Docs absorbs, that we set up their options in Board Docs so that it mimics and just is very organic with the process that they're already using, pushing something from draft to active and then into the retired group of policies, or the archive as they were calling it. So that's kind of what we do as far as policy management. We're helping people to make that behavior very easy. So
Love it. That's
no
great.
consulting here. It would be impossible to do that for all of the states.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, great. Well, we can see your desktop and just give you a visual cue. And now we see your Board Docs back page.
Excellent. Because I work in policy, I always have 3 screens going. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
So this is the welcome page. And I mean, obviously I've got policies that are highlighted on this page. This will be, and you know, for if you have a packet coming up, I encourage people to feature policies that are timely as far as the calendar. So when it's annual budget time, you know, throw up your annual budget policies up there. And if it's beginning of the year, throw up the attendance policies. It's very helpful for broadcasting and keeping people in tune with their policies. I love, I think it was Shelley that was talking about the fact that administrators, campus administrators, started getting really excited about the fact that they could find policies so easily. One of the things that I found in my, you know, experience and career over policy is central office knows policy quite well, but my campus administrators oftentimes are just very in tune with the handbook, not necessarily the policies. And when those things get out of sync, because they really are administering policy every single day, they're your best people to say, hey, we need a change. And when handbooks get out of sync with policy, you know, you can get into litigation and problems like that. So what I love about Board Docs is once everybody knows exactly where to start looking for policy, they do. And it reduces risk as far as people not following their policy. So you can also use the Board Docs policy feature to put your handbooks in here. So there's no limit to the amount of policy that you can put in here. Right now, I think I only have a policy manual, but I could easily add an administrative regulation or a handbook item. And my system's running a little slow because of the meeting, so I apologize for that. But I would encourage you to put board operating procedures and business operating procedures. You know, maybe you put all of your handbooks in here and your policy. You can, I think it was Sylvia that was talking about the fact that we don't prescribe how policies are organized. So if you want to add administrative regulations and board policies in the same book, you can. If you want them in separate books, you can. It's a very easy process, and I'll just show you. So this would be if I was creating a new book, like maybe I'm trying something out And obviously the book for administrative regulations is going to mimic the policy manual. And maybe this one is attendance. And I am guessing, no, it'll be in the student section. We'll say J. And then I choose the status. Now, obviously, I'd be drafting this one, so I would say, well, we're going to do policy committee review. And then I could put my text down below. When I do that, I automatically start a book. So that's how easy it is to file new books in. And again, the more the merrier. Once we have them in there, it's so easy to search. So if I'm looking for an item in the policy manual, I can come up here to the policies and say, okay, what's the attendance policy? Oh, no match found for that one. Let's try a different one. Let's try student. So here I have a student item, and it's pulling it in. Might be because I'm in drafts. So it pulled up all of the attendance policies. Here's why that's important, is because a lot of times people are like, oh, I know the attendance policy is JB, but actually the attendance policy might be a dozen policies that always need to be in sync. And when you do a search for attendance and it brings up all of the policies involved, again, you're just lowering the risk of things getting out of sync. I love it. When people start reading their policies, it can become kind of a rabbit hole. You're like, ooh, that policy and that one and that one. I know I'm a policy lover, so maybe that's just me. The other place that you can search is there's a global search in Board Docs that allows you to search the whole site. So that's important if you're doing like a discovery or a public information request. So if I come in here and I say, okay, show me everything we've got on attendance, it's going to pull up for me the agenda items that dealt with attendance. It's going to pull up any library items that we have that dealt with attendance. It's going to pull up the policy item. And so then I can start compiling my response to a public information request in the snap of a finger. I'm not looking in different filing cabinets. I'm not searching other people's desktops and making sure that we've got all the information. It's all here. And as you showed in the beginning, if I click on something and that's the one I want, I can navigate there. Once I've navigated there, I can quickly and easily just print that item off into a PDF and compile a PDF for a response. I love it. The other thing you could do is, share that item either by link or email, or if you have social media attached to your site. Just a quick recap. I know you talked a little bit about the phases of life of a policy. Most policies start in a draft form. A lot of people start with their active policies. And so what you would want to do is come into an active policy, duplicate it. So one copy is still sitting public facing. Pulls it up in your drafts. Again, you can see that I'm in my drafts here. And now I can start making changes to that document for the board to review, for maybe the policy committee to consider, while my other copy that's currently in use still sits out there. So you mentioned Gamut. So once the districts get their update from Gamut and they've got their Word files, they can either choose to just put that Word file out there for the board, or they can already start their drafts and incorporating what CSBA is recommending into their policy, or what their local language is into the CSBA copy. And we have track changes in here for that. So let's say this entire paragraph is actually being removed. And then maybe they're adding something amazing to replace it. So it's tracking my changes that I made. It's also saying who made them. Obviously, I just made them, but if they were made 2 days ago, it would give the date that I made that change. And other individuals can come in and make additional changes to this as we're considering revisions, and it's tracking all of that. I can also add notes about why. Yeah.
Sorry, Angela, I was just going to say, just on that track changes before you move the notes. So, Sylvia or Shelley, I know that this same functionality is for agendas, it's for policies, but it keeps good communication and collaboration going in a non-threatening version way, right? A lot of PDF tools out there, there's a lot of versioning issues. I don't know, what version are we on? This allows you to see through track changes through a very easy word processing tool with a rich text editor where things are. How has this been helpful for you, whether it's in policy or agenda?
Well, in my case, I haven't really, this is Sylvia, I haven't really had a track changes with the either side as yet, because what'll happen is the secretaries will bring forward their items. We actually don't, for agendas, we don't have any board memos that we used to upload. We used to create a memo. We now organize all of that through the board docs. And as far as the policies, they at least at this time, the cabinet members are creating their changes in paper format and then sending them to me. So I haven't yet gotten them moved into doing that through board docs, but I still have hope.
Yeah. Once that happens, that'll be even more time savings, right? So, Shelley, anything different from on your end?
No, I'm with Sylvia. I haven't really used a lot of that yet, but I did email Angela after our last practice for this because I wasn't able to see what she was doing, but it sounded like some things I needed to know. So I'm going to get with her in the next few days. And this, as far as using it with policies, looks like something I'm probably going to be really interested in. So yeah, we may be using that instead of the way I've been doing the updates and changes with our administrators.
And you bring up a good point, both of you. Just, at different journeys within board docs, there's different needs. You come on and right away I've seen people, they need the agenda piece or they need agenda and policy. Well, within Pro, there's a lot of different efficiency tools. So what we offer is free ongoing training remotely. So if you come across this need that Shelley just mentioned or Sylvia, we'll get on and we'll do some training with you and then no charge. Or if your superintendent asks about goal tracking and you want to track LCAP goals in California and you have that within board docs, we'll do a training with you. So it's a really nice experience. Angela, I know you were just going to talk about the notes, so I'll let you get back to that. Sorry.
Sure. So you can also add a note to these track changes. And, you're right. We don't dictate whether or not you have to use track changes. I think what both of these ladies are doing is taking what is being proposed from their consultants at CSBA, taking that to the board, and then putting the clean copies into board docs. Perfect. I mean, I'm all for not doing extra work. But if you want to do the track changes in here, you absolutely can. This little note feature just lets me, if I can spell recommendation. Nope, my little window is way over there. Again, this is just my computer running slowly because I have, and I added it twice. But this, somebody else can come in and add the same, add another note, just a dialogue about this. This is not something actually that's available for board members, so we wouldn't want them to walk into a walking quorum, an accidental quorum of the board, talking about policies. Once I'm done with this, I can actually just save it, and then I recommend that individuals print it to PDF and attach it right to their agenda item. The reason I have them do that is because I want them to create a snapshot of what that looked like at this reading, and then you don't have to store that anywhere else. It's stored on the agenda. And if I did a search for school division legal status, that would come up on both the agenda item, the version of it when we read it, and then the final copy would come up as well. So that's sort of the drafting process, but let's also imagine that this policy became adopted. And then we made it active. I'm going to take off the copy out. Oh, I have to accept my changes. I'm going to go ahead and just accept all. So that's a tool that we have in here so that you don't accidentally publish track changes. You're publishing a final copy that we don't let you publish with track changes on there. Gives you that warning. So notice that I have two of these now. I've got the new one and then I have the old one. And so obviously I'm going to want to move this old one into the archive. And I do that with just a click of the button. I come in, I retire it. I put a retire date. We'll say that happened yesterday. And then I save. And there it is. I've had a couple of these, obviously, and that would happen, right? Over time, I might have 10 copies of the same policy. And so there are just going to be archived here, and I'll know when they lived by the difference between their last revised date and their retired date. So I think that's about it for as far as like drafting and the policy management flow. That's a general workflow. Most people have it customized to their district workflow as far as how it moves through an item in, through the board review committee and then first reading, second reading. The last thing I just wanted to touch upon is the fact that I can use XML to pull data out of here and create a review cycle for my policies. And as you mentioned earlier, if somebody needed a full import of their data, they just tell us how they want it. Do you want it in electronic files? Do you want it in a database form? And we just download all their data. We don't own data, it's your own. But I'll just show you how I would use XML. I would just come into an XML sheet. I would tell it that I want the data from the web. I would put in the address of the board doc site. So we'll use Torrances. Let me come over here. Nope, they don't want to do it for me. Data from the web. And we have a whole list of feeds that you can pull from board docs. Our support staff has them. They're actually on our website as well. And so you just decide what data you want. But I'll say XML active policies. Once I do that, it's a standard process. I click this button, it's going to pull all the data that I want, and then I can kind of set up a review cycle of, policies that are old. I need to take a look at those, or policies that are like common policies that I need to take a look at. If I want to review things by section, I can start marking things that, I think we mentioned the fact that sometimes policies go a very long time without being looked upon, and some policies can get neglected more than others because, we see the attendance policy every year, but maybe we didn't look at the campus naming policy in the last 10 years. And so you can start a review cycle of going through your entire policy manual and checking off those items as you go, which I love. Any questions?
Yeah, Angela, a question just came up from the group and just asked, well, what do you recommend is the easiest way to transfer policy information into board docs?
So we get a lot of those inquiries. I probably do about, 4 or 5 imports a week. And it really just depends on what structure I'm being handed. We can do a database import. Those are always a free part of your board doc service. Another free part of your import service is Word doc. So if you've got all of your files in a Word files or even a compiled Word file, we can parse that out and put that information, typically in a rudimentary fashion, into your board doc site. From there, it's going to take some formatting, but it certainly helps to not have to like cut and paste. If they're in something very odd, like if they're in, I've seen lately some old WordPerfect files that are difficult to transfer, that's going to be a manual conversion. And I think both of these ladies have had to go through a manual conversion, although we've had some technology updates that I think could have avoided that now. But if we have to do it manually, we walk you through that. The training for it is always free, and you can just expect that it takes, a few weeks to clean everything up and get it published.
Right, that's great. Another question came in. This was for Sylvia. Sylvia, question was that obviously there was some folks that were familiar with board docs and other folks that weren't. How were you able to see adoption occur among all the staff? What are some of the best practices you would recommend to some of the attendees on how best to see adoption through?
Are you talking about the adoption of the board policies or just the implementation of the new process?
It looks like both, just the process in general. The new process in general from the question.
Well, I have to be honest, there were so many problems towards the end with CSBA. I was speaking to an eager audience. They were ready to get away from the issues that they were having with CSBA. And also, luckily, I'll just brag on our SPUSD family, we have really bright, intelligent, interested, involved employees. And so when they could see that this is something that would make their lives easier, our lives easier, better service to the community, they just bought right in. And I have to also say that the intuitive nature of board docs, again, this is from the policy side, from the agenda side, the intuitive nature, the training just flew. It didn't take much time at all. It was just really a paradigm shift from, okay, this is the way we've been doing it. Now this is a faster, easier, more complete way to do it. So I had buy-in pretty quickly. When we first went from the paper agendas in 2008 to the CSBA agenda online, that was a bit of difficulty because they couldn't see how that would be an improvement. But with board docs, the ease of use and just the changes that they could see easily between the system we were on and board docs, it really sold itself. As far as the policy system, I think that the ability to go find a policy, quickly email a link, print it off in PDF, find it in quick order. We also house our Friday letters, our superintendent letters to the board on board docs. So I can send them a hard copy, but then they also have an archive of the Friday letters in board docs, which is executive private view only, so nobody in the community can see it. And that they really, really like. And I forgot to mention that earlier.
Yeah, part of the library feature of having that library and then the goal tracking. And another question came up about LCAP. And yes, Board Docs does provide goal tracking and the ability to track LCAP goals. Sylvia, Shelley, I don't know if either of you are tracking LCAP goals yet, within Board Docs anyways.
Torrance is
not yet
at this point.
Yeah, we aren't either at this point.
A good opportunity to get that free remote training, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and again, like Angela said, it's at your own pace when folks are ready. Another question just came up about how often does Board Docs update their systems, provide new features? Board Docs does it usually quarterly, but that can always be a little different. But one of the great things about Board Docs is, we're owned by an organization that's sole purpose is board portals. So that's our day job. That's what we do every day. So we're always coming out with the latest and greatest and new stuff. And I know some folks it was 4 years ago, as Sylvia mentioned, that there was a change in with CSBA, and also Shelley mentioned the same thing, that there was a change about 4 years ago, and now they're coming out with a new solution. So because it's our day job, we're coming out with things faster and better than most vendors out there. Fantastic. I'll take one last question. This is just is the policy tool available in all of your solutions? And the answer is yes. So Board Docs LT and Board Docs Pro both come with the policy tool. But as you've heard from both Sylvia and Shelley, the greatest efficiency we see is within Board Docs Pro because of such things as Live Minutes tool, voting system, the workflow tool that Sylvia talked about, the ability to track goals, the ability to have a library for things such as the superintendent's notes or highlights also come with that as well. But everything is searchable, and everything does come with the policy for both of our LT and Pro tools. Well, excellent. We're just at about time to our panel. Shelley or Sylvia, anything else you'd like to add before we depart?
Nothing on my end other than you were talking about the updates. I just wanted to say, once in a while something comes up that might be, like I know I had one thing that was available to myself and those that have the same access that I do, which are two other administrative assistants that can sub for me, as far as duplicating from past agendas to future. And, obviously other submitters are like, I want to be able to do that too. That would make my life a little easier. And Board Docs is always so receptive if I say like, hey, would this be coming out possibly in a future update? And they'll say, I'll make a note of that. And I've gotten responses back. And I just want to say that I appreciate the communication and the not being afraid to contact anyone, or, like they'll say, oh, not another suggestion from you. I mean, everyone's always so nice, so helpful. And it's really, and the updates that have come out have been good ones. And they're always, oh, let me make a note of that and suggest that to those that are working on future updates. So I just appreciate that part of it from what we've, from our interaction with Board Docs up to this point. So it's been great.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I just had two things to mention.
Yeah, please.
One of the things is reliability of the program. I cannot tell you, both from myself and also from other users of the previous solution, especially for agenda preparation, I've not had one issue with Board Docs going down. And as we all know, Board Docs or any agenda solution will usually go down on the Thursday or the Friday before you need to publish your agenda. It's just Murphy's Law. Back in the day before we had the electronic solution, those are the days that the photocopier went down, and we were all there late on Friday night. I have never had a problem with Board Docs going down for even a minute. But there is one thing that Board Docs did that was fabulous, and I have to brag on you for it. I had an administrator, an assistant superintendent, whose assistant was out on leave. And so she was trying to create these agenda items, and the system would allow her to. So I called Board Docs, and they said, a reviewer is not supposed to be a submitter, so the system purposely does not give certain permissions to reviewers instead of submitters. And I think what that does is allows accountability for everyone across the board. It allows the submitter to understand this is what's going forward. It allows a reviewer to say, okay, I'm putting this back to the submitter if there's an issue with it. And I think that helps with accountability in districts that have that need. But it also makes sure that the administrator is doing the administrating and not doing the secretarial administrative work. So those are just two last things that I wanted to share.
Great points. That's wonderful. Well, thank you both. Those are awesome points. The one last question, I'll take it. I'm sorry. Someone from a charter school said, "Hey, does Board Docs fit a charter school model?" And the answer is absolutely yes. We have several charter schools besides our K through 12 public schools that work with us. So thank you for that question. Wow. Well, this has been fantastic. Great information. Great spirit here. So Sylvia and Shelley, thank you both, and a big thanks to both South Pasadena Unified School District and Torrance Unified School District for allowing these two wonderful people to be a part, and thank you for all you do to add to that Board Docs experience. So Sylvia, Shelley, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And Angela, thank you so much for being a part of today, and thank you for all you do to add to that experience as well, and your passion and enthusiasm for policy. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
Great. Well, thank you all again for joining us today. Again, this is recorded, so we will be sending this out. And then if there's any further questions, you can see there's emails on the screen for Sylvia, Shelley, and myself, of course, and we'd be happy to answer any further questions. And if anyone would like a more personalized demo, we can help with that as well. But again, thank you all for joining this Board Docs subscriber-led webinar series, A Better Way for Policy Management in California. And we look forward to the next time. Thank you all and have a great day. Take care.